He has already moved through a couple of his first speeches and is moving very quickly, if he continues at this pace, towards receiving his first personal award. Our Toastmaster this evening is Red Bartlett.
All right, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I will be your Toastmaster this evening. My name is Red Bartlett. We'll go over an agenda. The grammarian is John for this evening. John, tell us about the grammarian's duties.
So basically what the grammarian does is the grammarian goes over the word of the day. Also the grammarian looks for ways you could have said things a little bit better. If you've used any filler words or other things that have been to kind of distract the audience from the actual topic at hand. So our word of the day today is opposite. Opposite. And the definition of opposite is especially well suited for the purpose. These migratory movements of peoples have been called drifts, and the word is opposite. Unplanned, blind, automatic, spurred on by the pain of hunger, man has literally drifted his way around the planet. Jack London, human drift.
All right, our first speaker, who I feel is especially apposite, will be Yannick. Yannick, what will you be speaking of?
We'll be speaking a little bit about community.
Nice, good. The second speaker tonight will be Maurice. Maurice, what will you be speaking on?
I'll be doing a talk show called Perspectives.
Excellent, excellent. That'll be followed up by the table topics master, Cody. And then we'll have a general evaluator, Ewing. Do you want to describe that job?
Yeah, my job is hold the evaluating section and give the meetings better.
Excellent. The second evaluator will be Mr. Lawrence. Grammarian, education overview by timer. The timer will be Rachel.
So I'll be using those handy dandy sheets of paper up there to help keep our track, our speeches on track. I think we're all familiar with the color codes.
All right. Once that's wrapped up, the grammarian will come back in and give us the op counter, the word of the day report, the grammarian's report, and then we have Ewing, that will be the general evaluator, followed up by Mr. Thomas with the education overview. Okay? So we introduced the first speaker now, correct? Our first speaker this evening, Yannick, speaking on community.
Thank you. Which speech is this? This is number 2. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about community. Community has two ways that it's defined. One is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. This is community by happenstance. Another definition of community is a feeling of fellowship with others. So they may not all share the same things, but have a strong feeling of fellowship. Throughout my years, I've moved around quite a bit and lived in many different neighborhoods and communities. Grew up in Stockton, California, just outside of San Francisco. And when I was about 5 or 6 years old, moved to Chicago, got a very different type of community over there. Spent some time in Wrigleyville, and shortly after moved to the suburbs. When I got out of high school, the moving wasn't over. I ended up going and spending some time in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we were not far from the student ghetto next to the university, and that was quite a lot of fun. From there, I went back to Chicago for a brief period and then transitioned over to Jacksonville. Again, a very different community. We're right on the school campus was on the Trout River, and besides druggies and prostitutes, it was a whole different community. We had one of our fellow classmates that got carjacked down the street at the gas station, so very vibrant. Going from there, I found myself in New Orleans, lived in the Garden District for a while, then moved over to Uptown, closer to the Fly. and found my way over to Mobile. I've even lived in a couple different communities in Mobile. I lived in West Mobile for a while, and now I'm right down the street, across from Wilmer Hall. One thing I found with these different communities, everybody's wondering when they move, how do I know if I'm moving to a good neighborhood? How do I know if this is a good community? One of the ways that people go about doing this is you can pull up statistics, you can look up average income in the neighborhood, you can look up median house pricing, you can look up all these other things, you can look up demographics. One thing I found overall is these typically don't work. You don't know if you're going to have nice neighborhoods or have that real feeling of community. You might get community by happenstance or by circumstance, but you're not going to get community from fellowship by looking at these statistics. When I was in high school, some of my buddies, we used to carpool to school every day, and when we pick up our friends, we'd clown around and pass the time in the car. And one day we were driving around and figured it'd be kind of funny just to wave at random people and see what their reactions were. Turns out this had kind of an opposite effect to what we were doing, and we started noticing some trends. People in different neighborhoods, no matter what background the neighborhood was, whether it was a beat-up neighborhood or a very nice, expensive neighborhood, we started noticing these trends where people were waving back or not waving back. And we ended up naming this the friendliness test. Depending on what neighborhood you were in, you'd kind of keep score. I'm not sure if we have any hockey fans over here, but they have a plus-minus rating. When a player's on the ice and a goal is scored, that would be a plus. When that player's on the ice and a goal is scored against them, that would be a minus. So it's a very simple way of keeping track of things. You can go around driving through different neighborhoods and communities, and when you see somebody walking down the sidewalk, shoot them a quick smile and wave. See if they wave back or what their reactions were. Most people are caught off guard, but it kind of gives you a natural response. In a lot of these communities, you either get shunned and people refuse to wave back, or why is that person waving at me? Yep, -1. And other neighborhoods, in a lot of neighborhoods, you wouldn't think so. Sometimes you'd be like, oh, this seems like a rough neighborhood. I'm not sure if people are going to be nice here. And to me, it seems like some of those have been the friendliest neighborhoods of the bunch. But the big point of this is we can't always rely on standard statistics to find out if a community is going to be a nice community or not a nice community. I implore you all to give it a try next time you're driving around and give the old friendliness test a try. Give people a wave and see how they react. Sometimes some communities you thought were nice and friendly may not be so friendly to you, and other communities that you thought may be a little rougher or not as friendly. Some great people over there. Thank you.
Really good job there about communities. I've always wondered about the demographics and the information that was aggregated, how correct it was. Next up tonight is our second speaker, Maurice, Perspectives. This will be an interview style presentation. The interviewee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all about it, the other half.
There's two sides to this.
Can you tell us, the group, a little more about what's going to happen here? Or is that allowed?
Yes, actually, this is a program where the host and the guest are going to have a discussion. The host asks questions, the guest, of course, answers them, and in the communicating on video series, both the host and the guest can be evaluated. That's why we have two different evaluators at this point. So it's going to be, I guess we can figure out a way to have a third evaluator on here that's not on the list.
You might just have to give up education.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Perspectives with Maurice Heidelberg. This is a talk show where I will interview an interesting person, and they will give their perspective on what their occupation is or what they do in life. So my guest for tonight, fellow Toastmasters, will be Cody Broussard.
Thank you for having me on your show today.
Before I get to the first question, I just want to say a little bit on how I first heard about you. And it was about 4 years before I met you at Toastmasters. At the last job I was employed at, you were given high regard. You were a prospective employee, a graduate engineer who was going to potentially work at this place. But as it turned out, you found a position at Airbus.
Correct.
So that's how I first heard about Cody. Now to the first question. You majored in engineering,
Right.
mechanical engineering?
Yes.
Specifically?
That's correct.
What made you decide to major in engineering in college?
So I started in high school, and I thought I wanted to go into the medical field. But then I really started to think about it, and maybe 8 years of school wasn't for me. So then I started to think of different career paths, and found engineering. I was good at math and physics, and I like cars, so I chose mechanical engineering. It's kind of the thought process on that.
That's great. Now back to your job at Airbus. What is your job title, and what is the main objective or focus of your job?
So I'm the task team lead for the door frame lining of the A380. So my job is to make sure all our new A380 aircraft customers have the correct door lining and door frame lining for the airplane. So any new changes to the aircraft, I have to adapt and manage the suppliers and some subcontract engineers to make sure all that's coordinated and it goes on the airplane correctly.
So are you active in the quality control task of what you...
Just on the design and engineering side, so our supplier has their own quality inspection department, and they have certification, and they have to keep their certification up by obeying the regulations that we've stated for them.
Okay, I understand that you do quite a bit of traveling, as you have mentioned during different Toastmasters meetings. What is the prime objective of some of these trips that you take?
Okay, well, I'm actually taking a trip tomorrow to Arlington, Virginia. This one's more fun. We won an award for a group for user guide process that we made, a lean project. So we're getting to go to an award dinner. But mainly the Germany trips are either for training purposes or for design reviews and things like that. So I need to meet different parties and get on the aircraft some and maybe look at also problems. We have a problem and I need to go there and figure out what's going on.
I also understand that you are studying for the PMP exam. What is PMP and what does that focus on?
So I was studying that. I've kind of taken a break, and I actually decided that I probably won't take it, maybe down the road. But that's professional project management. So it's a certification, and you know, it looks really good for engineers to have it because they have the technical skill and they have the certification to lead projects. So it also allows you to kind of change fields and industries. So if you're maybe stuck in an industry and you want to get out of that industry as an engineer, get your PMP certification, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe manage a project in another field.
We have heard a few times through some of your speeches that you are a real estate investor and that you own or co-own some properties. Without getting too much into detail, what roles do you play as an investor, and how much time does that take outside of your current job?
Yeah, so I'm involved in passively in one deal, so that one was, not much work. I've edited it, signed a check, and all the work's being done by other people. And then I'm more actively involved in another one where I helped raise capital for it, and also help a little bit on some of the day-to-day, but not real active on that one as well. But also, I am, I study and do a lot of research on a daily basis, and probably at least 10 hours a week that I spend on the real estate side of it.
All right, thank you there,
All right,
Cody.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was Perspectives with Maurice Heidelberg, and I interviewed Cody Broussard. And that is our show for today.
That was extremely well done, Maurice. Something about a talk show with good theme music that really sets the tone for the show. When you agree. All right, that's going to conclude our speakers for this evening. Next up, we have table topics, which is my favorite. It's going to be led by Cody this evening.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. It is now time for table topics. Do I have a volunteer? All right, David. Been away for a while, getting right back into it. So you've just been awarded a gold medal in ice skating.
Yes!
Speech.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. You might have heard today was a great day. I won the gold medal in ice skating. Funny thing is, I've never ice skated a day in my life. But you know what? I'm very proud to receive this award. It just so happens that I didn't get hit in the knee with a stick like Nancy Kerrigan did back in, anybody remember what year that was?
1994.
1994. Give Maurice a hand. So, unlike Miss Kerrigan, I won the gold medal. Does anybody here doubt that I actually won that medal? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Thank you for your honesty, John. You're right. I stole that medal. But here's the big thing. Nah, I'm not going to tell you. It's a secret. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Very enthusiastic. Always like that. So for the next table topic, do we have another volunteer? Okay, John. Your company just got busted for polluting a nearby river, and they needed to do an immediate press conference.
It does sound like an Oscar.
Fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, I'd like to thank you very much for coming to this press conference today about some of the ill effects that my company has had here in the local Mobile area. I would like to just say that we are the opposite of a bad company. We're a great company. We have done many things in this world to help our community and help the people of this community. This one instance, we hope, will not reflect poorly on our overall future with this community. We have done everything we can to make sure that the people that have been responsible for this incident are being held responsible, and also are determining ways that we can fix this as fast as possible to help out the community and the people in it. We would like to extend our apologies to everyone which has been affected by this severe and drastic incident which has affected us all. We want you to know that we are putting every resource that we have into correcting this issue. And we hope that in the near future we can fix this in a way in which we're all better. Not just from yesterday and not just for tomorrow, but for years to come. For our children, for their children, and for their children after that. So thank you very much for having me today. And I want to know that we are working 100% as fast as possible to alleviate this pressure on our community. Thank you.
How many times have you given this?
That was really good. That was really good.
Thank you, John, for handling that like a true professional. So that's good. All right. Anyone want to volunteer for the third one? All right, Lawrence. Just won a Grammy for your new hit country song, "I Love My Truck More Than Her."
My friends, I want to tell you how much I love my truck. Now, I love my truck so much that I spend 4 hours every day polishing up them wheels. Because you can't go mudding unless you got clean wheels. I tell you, I love my truck. Now, the problem was, she didn't love my truck. So, how could I keep her around when she didn't love my truck? I mean, what is there not to love about a truck? It's got a big box in the back where you can put all your beer. And when you're done drinking your beer, you can throw the cans back there. It's got big wheels so you can go mudding and have all this mud flying everywhere. I love my truck. And I bet y'all love my truck too, Mr. Topic Master.
John Lawrence, you got a good laugh out of that. So, do we have enough time for 15?
Yeah.
So, okay. Any volunteers for the fourth one?
Sure.
Okay. A friend asked you to give a toast at his wedding. You have not talked to him in about 5 years, and you have no prep.
It's totally my. Before I start that, this like totally could happen with me and my best friend.
I'd like to say a word about the man that I have known longer than any other. And that, as my wife has said many times, if he was a female, probably would be my wife now and not getting married to someone else. I am so happy for him. After 33 years of trying to completely con some woman into thinking he was better than he has succeeded. And as intelligent as she probably is, has proven that she's a little bit crazy. Because I know who I am, and he is just as bad. But I know that they'll be happy together. Because no matter what, when he commits to something or somebody, he always comes through. I remember when my oldest son was born, we lived 6 hours away from him. And having been friends for 20 years at that point, I asked him to drive 6 hours one way, spend the night at my house, and be there for my son's first Sunday at church. And he drove 6 hours to be at church with us for 3, to turn around and drive 6 hours back. Because when he commits to someone, it's permanent, and he'll do whatever it takes. So I know they'll be happy. And I know that it will last.
Okay, that concludes our table topics for tonight. I will now relinquish the lectern back to our Toastmaster.
Thank you.
now we're going to move into the evaluation portion of the meeting. The evaluator, first evaluator is going to be you.
General.
General, sorry, excuse me, the general evaluator.
Yeah, I like the meeting today. It's great, right? The speech, great, and the table talk is great. And also today was the second big change, like a different style, right? Okay, I like that way. Everything I like. So now we have the evaluator section, and this section is like will improve our ability of the public speaking. That's a very important section. First, the evaluator for
For Yannick.
Yannick. Oh.
Thank you, General Evaluator, Toastmasters and honored guests. I was evaluating Yannick's speech on community. The overall speech I thought was really well. You didn't stumble too much for only your second speech. I thought you did really well. You had a couple of ahs and ums, but that's for the ah counter to go out, and you cleared your voice a couple of times, but totally understandable. I thought you did a great job speaking wise. You had a great introduction. We were clear on what the speech was. You flowed right into your body. You had a couple of stories mixed in there. I thought you organized it very well. You did seem to maybe get a little rushed at the end, maybe ran out of time a little bit, I'm not sure, because you lacked a summary or a closing. We really didn't have an end to it. It felt like the body just kind of stopped and you said thank you. But again, I think you may have lost a little time there at the end and tried to rush it a little. One thing I would like to say is you spent the whole time back here, but you kept eyes on everybody. That was great. But you're a hand guy. You're like me. You like to use your hands a lot. So we got a lot of this. It did become slightly distracting. So if you can, maybe try to move out to the side a little bit or try to move your hands a little higher. Hand gesture is good. Moving side to side a little bit can help as well. On your speech, for speech value, I gave you a 5. For preparation, I gave you a 5. I gave you a 4 for organization, again, because you just seemed to lack the summary a little bit at the end. Opening, I gave you a 5. Body, I gave you a 5 for everything I've already explained. Conclusion, I did give you a 2. For reasons I've already explained, it seemed like you lacked a summary or an ending. And for transitions, I gave you a 4. That's it. You did great. Other than that.
The second evaluator is Tom.
Either way. Thank you. This is kind of a 2-part evaluation. So I take the first part, and then Thomas will come up and do his part on the interviewee. Now, please forgive me. I might, as I'm looking at what I wrote down, I might have been a little bit harsh because I'm doing the same thing next week, and so I'm kind of seeing myself in you. And please forgive me if I seem a little bit harsh. But I think you were very well prepared. I think your questions came out really nicely. They were in good order, and it really brought forward a lot of ideas about who he is and what he does, and what, even to an extent, what his future goals would be. So I think that was really good, and that's what an interviewer wants to do, is to draw the person out and make them feel comfortable, which I think both of you did feel a little bit comfortable by the end. I think in the beginning you were a little bit nervous, and you use too much hand motion for a video. I think that was the one thing that I noticed that probably was going to be the biggest issue if it was a real talk show. If you're talking to someone and you're using constant hand motion, it would be really distracting from, if you're behind the lectern and you're using a lot of hand motions, well, at least part of it's not showing. But when you're in open like that. One more thing I think that would have been better, if you had turned the seats a little bit so you're both facing towards the camera instead of facing each other away from the camera, because that would have drawn both of you to be looking more at the camera when you were speaking. Even though you asked the questions, he could be speaking to the camera. So those are the few things that I saw that I thought might be a little bit more exciting. But again, I think that your questions were really good. I think the way you presented the questions brought a step-by-step order into how who he was, what he's doing, and to some extent why he's doing it and where he's going. So I really thought it was a good interview, all things considered. I don't know who to interview next.
She's meeting's in charge of the evaluation portion. She said I was up next, so here we go. I'm evaluating Cody's portion of that, and I did make note of the same thing that Lawrence did about the fact that you weren't facing the camera or the audience made it a little bit harder for you to interact with the audience and, I think as they put it, relate appropriately to us. So I have that as one of my notes here, like Lawrence also had. So you were very well prepared, that's one of the questions, and you were very enthusiastic. You could kind of see that excitement. And you could also see how excited you were by how much your hands moved. When it was just that really easy softball, not a whole lot of substance to a question, your hands like stayed on your lap almost. But then when you started talking about your real estate investments or your trips to Germany for training, your hands were in motion but not super used. So I thought it was appropriate level of hand motion for video or for a studio audience. You were dressed appropriately because we were talking about business type things, being business casual, this is what you would wear to work. I think it was perfectly appropriate for that. And the only other than the actual setup that I would say that could have been made slightly better is, from my personal perspective for both of you actually, was if you would have spoken up a little more and spoken a little clearer, knowing that anybody who's watched the YouTube of our meetings knows that does not sound as clear as I sound right now to you guys. And so if you were in a real studio doing a real interview, you probably want to speak up a little bit more and be a little bit clearer so that you could have the audience through the television more easily understand you. But I thought it was very well done from both parts, and Cody, you seemed pretty at ease, especially by the end of it. So that was very good. Just don't lie there.
Next is a primary report. So Rachel?
So Yannick, you came in at 4:45. Maurice, 5:59. David, you came in at 59.87 seconds. So we can say
On table topics?
yes, 1 minute. John, you came in at 1:47. Lawrence, 1:20. Thomas, 1:32. For the evaluation section, David, you had 2 minutes, 13 seconds. Lawrence, you had 2 minutes, 35. And Thomas, 2 minutes, 13.
Okay, next is Premier Salar.
Me.
Oh.
Okay, so first speech, Yannick, you had 3 ahs, A little hitting on the podium, as David stated, but overall, very good speech. I thought you did a great job. Maurice, with perspectives, I didn't catch any kind of filler words really. I didn't hear any ahs or so's or anything like that. But I thought it was a very good speech. I thought it was very clear. You moved smoothly through the interview process. Cody, you had 2 ahs, 1 so, and a you know. David, you had a great speech. I thought you had a great movement behind the podium. I liked that a lot. And you're very confident in your speaking. Larry, very animated as usual. Lawrence, sorry. My dad's name is Larry, that's why I call him. And you look just like my
Just
dad.
gonna
It's
call me
kinda
late for
crazy.
dinner.
Yeah, right? Thomas, great speech. And I and Ren were the only two that used the word of the day. I actually used it for the opposite of the meaning, so I don't even know if that works, because I technically used it in the wrong terminology. You used it correctly. I actually used it in the term of opposite, not opposite. So I don't know if that counts or not. I did try and use it, but I think I used it wrong.
Only counts when you use it right.
Exactly,
Only
yeah.
counts when you use it right.
And that's my grammarian's report. Winner.
Great integrity.
Thank you very much.
I actually
Yeah, I finished your sections.
All right, Ewing, I think you did a fantastic job tonight as the general evaluator. It's going to bring us to our next point of interest, which is going to be the education overview. Thomas will be handling that for us this evening. Thomas?
So for our educational overview tonight, we're actually going to talk about filler words and why they're a problem. We're pretty good about not having filler words, not having filler phrases in our club. But the reason why filler words are problematic, no matter what situation you're in. I work for the Army. The Army always knows exactly what you're supposed to do at all times. And the fastest way to convince the world that you don't know what you're doing, you know, those phrases take away that confidence level. Even if you have it, that confidence that you're trying to portray is diminished by the filler words. I work with several colonels, and I also work with a couple generals from time to time. The colonels that make it to be generals, every last one of them has eliminated filler words and phrases from their presentations. No matter quick, off-the-cuff stuff, or the prepared Army does death by PowerPoint presentation. They've eliminated. The ones that retire as colonels because they can't get to have a star on their collar are the ones who, no matter the situation, have almost as many filler words as actual words. So filler words demean your message. They make you seem less sure. So we're talking about why filler words need to be eliminated, not just from our prepared speeches, but also from the unprepared speeches. Because people get promotions based on the elevator pitch. They get promotions based on visiting at lunch. Because it's, as terrible as it sounds, who you know, as much as it's what you know. It's that interaction, that off-the-cuff interaction that everybody remembers in the end. So, it's our monitoring of filler words is super important inside Toastmasters because we can concentrate on it, we can focus on it. So that when we're out there dealing with our real lives where we have real consequences for filler words, whether we see the consequences or not, they can slowly reduce and disappear from our lives. A year ago when I started Toastmasters, I had just gone through a major milestone on one of my projects where I briefed all the way up to the equivalent of a 2-star general. And I had enough uhs and ums and on everything I did that it was a battle to get it success check mark. I've recently had another one on the same project. Same people listening to me. It was a cakewalk. But I had practiced our presentation about 7 times. I had eliminated anything that sounded like a filler word. So I went from, yeah, he knows what he's talking about, but he's not sure he's done it right, to, yep, he knows what he's doing. We're good. We can just sign off on this because he's good. Whether or not it was the truth, I will not tell you, but the perception, I was more prepared for the first one and knew better whether we had done it right than I was the second one. But the second one went smoother. And I will attribute it to, 1, what I've learned at Toastmasters, but 2, mastering the elimination of filler words. Everyone here, if you succeed at eliminating filler words from your vocabulary, you will come off as more professional and more confident. It has been shown in studies, and it's been shown personally through my watching my own life get smoother by not having them. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Thomas, for the wonderful educational overview on eliminating filler words. Okay. Now we'll have awards. Thomas, would you like to present any awards this evening?
Yes, we have 3 awards today.
Fantastic.
I would like for Yannick, Yannick, Rachel, John, Ren, and Mickey to stand up. In the months of August and September, our club earned an award. It is called the Smedley Award. It is for having 5 or more new members sign up in the months of August and September. Do you know what you 5 represent?
Smedley.
5 of those people who signed up in August or September. So because of you joining our club has been recognized, and we are one of the few clubs in the division who have gotten this recognition. So I personally would like to thank all of you for joining us and helping us be a better club, but also helping us have a nice ribbon to hang from our banner. You guys can sit down. Cody Broussard, will you please come forward? Cody Broussard has achieved his competent communicator. Yeah. For those of you who were here last week, he finished his 10th speech, and from what I hear,
Oh, I've been gone that long.
it went
2 months.
2 Mondays ago. Okay. From what I've heard, it went very well. But as everybody who completes their competent communicator, you don't get to get out of it. Will you please say a few words to the club?
Yes, thank you, Thomas, for this wonderful award. It's been a long journey, a little over a year now since I first joined, and it's definitely made a big difference in my confidence. So I had a leadership workshop recently in Herndon, and very prepared for that. I was able to present myself well, and because of this, help other people with public speaking. We had to do a lot of public speaking in the workshop. So I encourage everyone to keep going forward and achieve this, and I hope to get more awards in the other manuals. Thank you. So we have another Competent Communicator Award for tonight, and I award Thomas Jester with the Competent Communicator.
I will not renege on what I've made everybody who's finished the competent communicator do. Honestly, this has been a big deal to me. I didn't do it in my last intro speech, but I'm an introvert. I don't get stimulated from this. This kind of wears me out. And so public speaking has been a chore my entire life. And the process of getting the competent communicator has made it go from being a chore that I've dreaded. Even if I like the process of preparing the speech, I hated the process of getting ready to give it and giving it. It went from being a chore for that last part to being something I can deal with and I can actually feel like I'm prepared for versus scared spitless until it's over. So it was nice to get there. It's actually been a few months for me, but because I've been in charge, it's been really hard to get it taken care of on paper. So I'd like to actually thank, especially it was Cody, who when I first was here gave his first, he was one of the first speakers when I first came in January, and their abilities is what I wanted, and so that's what really pushed me to get this. So I'd also like to thank you guys for giving me that initial motivation. Yu Ying, would you like to review our agenda for next week? I know that we already have one speaker in Lawrence, as he's mentioned it twice.
Okay, good.
At least.
Twice. John?
I'll volunteer for my icebreaker.
Okay.
Okay. I can do the table top master.
I'll do tabletop master.
You?
Yes.
Oh, you want.
Me.
Okay. Evaluator, general evaluator, first day evaluator, and second day
I'll do general.
general.
For those of you who don't know, David is a long-standing member of our club who has had a very busy season in his job, so he's just been able to join us again.
We need a Toastmaster.
Well, you gonna be here?
Yeah, I'll be back.
Oh, you'll be back?
It's
Okay.
a
Yeah,
short
it's a
trip, huh?
Short trip, yeah.
Okay.
Where you go?
How apt is this?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Going to Virginia to have dinner.
They're flying all the way to Virginia to
flying,
get a
right?
sheet of paper, take a picture, and eat a meal.
I can do timer. Primary. Oh, the evaluate, we need to evaluate.
I can do one of the evaluators. Either one.
Well, I might not be here next week. I'm going to mark myself absent, but if that changes, then I'll be
So
here.
we're gonna make you the reserve speakers, Richard.
Show up.
Sorry. We have two evaluators, timer, grammarian, general evaluator, two speakers, Toastmaster. I'm going through it 'cause you got them all filled faster than I wrote them down, so I'm like, I obviously missed something.
Grammarian?
Are you going to have a camera for next week?
Oh, I don't have a camera now.
I got one.
Okay, iPhones. I mean, someone could use their iPhone or whatever.
I have.
Oh,
Okay.
I can bring. Do I need to do that?
Well, for it, yeah, for the
It's
video of his
wired,
speech.
but I have the two-piece lapel mic
Oh, yeah?
specifically for interviews, which
Oh.
will make it really good for the audio, so I'll bring that. I'll try to
Oh,
remember to bring
okay,
that.
okay,
If you can remember, send me an email or call me so I remember to bring it.
okay, okay.
okay, okay.
You'll be
I'll
out.
bring it back up.
Yeah, I'll be out
Okay.
next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I got stuff.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out for this meeting after I've missed 2 weeks. Sorry about missing the 2 weeks, but you didn't want to catch my con cold. They're called con colds because you seem to get a cold after going to conventions. And my entire family had Children's Day, and being the day before Halloween, I had a pumpkin card with my children. So sorry about missing last week as well. But our meeting is adjourned.